African woman whispered, "Don't sign." The Arab executive froze and stared at the nanny in shock. Imagine being moments away from signing the most important business contract of your life, a deal worth millions, something that would change your entire future. Now picture this. Just as your pen touches the paper, a soft but urgent whisper breaks through the tense silence. Don't sign. The voice didn't come from your advisor, your lawyer, or even a business partner. It came from the nanny, a woman you barely noticed until that very moment. For Malik al-Rashid, one of Dubai's most respected and feared executives, this was the moment that would turn his entire world upside down. What did the African nanny know? Why was she risking everything to stop him? And what Malik discovered next will leave you absolutely speechless. Before we dive into this incredible story of intuition, betrayal, and a shocking twist of fate, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Malik al-Rashid sat at the head of the long mahogany conference table, surrounded by a sea of corporate suits and nervous assistants. The floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office overlooked the Dubai skyline, but his attention was fixed on the contract in front of him. A billion-dollar merger, a deal that would secure his company's dominance for decades to come. His black tailored suit fit him like armor. The Rolex on his wrist glinted under the morning sun. His expression was unreadable, cold, and focused, just like always. Across the table, foreign investors waited eagerly, watching his every move. Their smiles were thin, almost forced. Malik's lead attorney, Karim, leaned in with a nod, signaling that everything was ready for his signature. Malik held the pen, poised to make history. But as the room fell silent, something strange happened. A soft voice, barely audible, broke through the tension. "Don't sign." Malik froze. At first, he thought he imagined it. But the voice had been real. It hadn't come from his team, not from the lawyers, not from the investors. Slowly, almost cautiously, Malik turned his head toward the far corner of the room. Standing near the entrance, holding a tray with a forgotten glass of water, was the nanny, Aisha. She stood motionless, her dark eyes locked on him with an intensity that felt almost pleading. Aisha was from Ghana, hired just 2 months ago to care for his younger sister's newborn baby when the family had moved temporarily into Malik's estate. She was soft-spoken, always respectful, barely noticeable most days. She wasn't supposed to be in this meeting, but there she was, and she had just told him, in front of everyone, not to sign. The room erupted. Karim shot up from his chair. "Mr. al-Rashid, I'm so sorry. She must have gotten confused. I'll remove her at once." The foreign investors whispered among themselves, visibly offended. One of them slammed his hand on the table. "Is this some kind of joke?" But Malik didn't respond to any of them. His gaze stayed fixed on Aisha. Something about the look in her eyes, the urgency, The fear made his stomach tighten. His hand, still holding the pen, began to shake slightly, an involuntary reaction he hadn't felt since his early days in business. "Aisha," Malik finally said, his voice low and deliberate. "Come here." The room went silent again. Aisha's hands trembled as she stepped forward, every eye following her. Her uniform seemed too loose on her thin frame, her braids pulled back tightly. As she approached, Malik noticed something else. She was sweating, her breathing shallow, as if she had just run up a flight of stairs. Standing next to him now, she leaned down and whispered close to his ear. "I heard something last night about this deal. Please, don't sign." Malik's heart pounded, his instincts, finely tuned from years of negotiating with liars, thieves, and corporate sharks, flared with warning. He rose slowly from his chair. Without giving anyone else a chance to speak, Malik closed the pen, placed it on the table, and walked out of the room, Aisha following closely behind. Behind him, voices exploded. Kareem shouted after him. The investors cursed in several languages. But Malik didn't stop. As soon as they were alone in the hallway, he turned on her. "What exactly did you hear?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing. Aisha looked around nervously. "Not here," she whispered. "Please. There are people listening." Malik hesitated for a moment, then signaled for her to follow him into his private office, locking the door behind them. And for the first time in years, Malik al-Rashid felt something he hadn't felt since he was a young man fighting for his first contract: fear. Inside Malik's private office, the air felt heavier. The windows were tinted darker here, keeping out the sharp Dubai sun. The walls were lined with awards, rare art, and old photographs that showed Malik standing next to world leaders, CEOs, and royalty. Yet in this moment, none of that power mattered, not compared to the panic rising in his chest. Aisha stood in the center of the room, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, staring at the floor like a child about to be scolded. Malik paced, his Italian leather shoes barely making a sound against the imported Persian rug. "Start talking," he said, his voice lower than usual, but carrying an unmistakable weight of authority. Aisha swallowed hard, then lifted her gaze. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. "I overheard something last night, Mr. al-Rashid. When I was putting the baby to sleep, I walked past your brother's study. The door was open just a crack." Malik's entire body tensed at the mention of his brother Faisal. They'd had a strained relationship for years, but business was business. Or so he thought. "What did you hear?" Malik asked, stepping closer. Her hands shook, but she kept going. "Your brother and that foreign investor. They were talking about the merger, but not about business profits. They were talking about you." Malik's eyes narrowed. "Be specific." Aisha took a shaky breath. "They said this contract, it's a trap. They're planning to push you out of your own company. The moment you sign, a clause hidden in the documents will activate a transfer of control. You'd lose everything, Mr. Al-Rashid. Everything you built. Malik's heart skipped a beat. Impossible. Karim, his lawyer, had spent weeks reviewing this contract. Or had he? For a brief moment, Malik wondered, had Karim also been bought? He moved toward his desk, pulled out the contract, and flipped through the pages with shaking hands. The legal jargon blurred as his pulse raced. Aisha continued, her voice softer now. I wasn't supposed to hear it. They didn't know I was there. But when I heard them talking about how you'd never see it coming, I had to say something. Malik stopped flipping pages and stared at her. For years, he had trusted almost no one. Not business partners, not family, not employees. But standing here, this woman, a simple nanny with no reason to lie, had risked everything to warn him. You understand how serious this is? Malik asked. If you're lying, you'll be deported by sunset. Aisha nodded quickly. I know, but I swear, I'm telling you the truth. Silence filled the room. Malik sat down heavily in his chair, staring out at the Dubai skyline. Betrayal by his own brother. It wasn't the first time Faisal had undermined him in small ways, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. And what about Karim? Had his most trusted legal advisor been part of this too? Suddenly, Malik's phone rang. It was Karim. Ignoring the call, Malik turned his gaze back to Aisha. You just saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life, he said slowly. But if you're right, this isn't over. Aisha looked at him, confusion and fear mixing in her eyes. What do you mean? Malik stood, straightening his suit jacket. It means I have a traitor inside my own walls. And now, I need to find out how deep this betrayal goes. At that moment, a loud knock shook the office door. Malik, open up! It was Faisal's voice, impatient and angry. We need to talk, now. Malik looked at Aisha, then toward the door. For the first time in years, he felt both vulnerable and furious. With one deep breath, he adjusted his cufflinks and walked toward the door, ready for a confrontation that could change everything. Malik unlocked the office door slowly, letting it swing open just enough to reveal Faisal standing there, red-faced and breathing hard. His brother wore a custom navy suit, but the loosened tie and the sweat on his brow betrayed his nervous state. Why did you walk out of the meeting? Faisal demanded, barging inside without waiting for an invitation. Do you have any idea what you just did? The investors are furious. You embarrassed us both. Malik stayed calm, standing near his desk with arms crossed. Aisha remained by the window, silent, her eyes darting between the two brothers. Close the door, Malik said, his tone even but ice-cold. Faisal hesitated but complied. The click of the lock echoed in the room. Malik walked slowly toward him. "I'm going to ask you one question, and I want the truth." Faisal narrowed his eyes, trying to regain control of the situation. "What question?" "Were you planning to betray me?" Malik asked, his voice dropping low like a growl. "Is this entire deal a setup?" For a split second, Faisal's confident mask cracked. His eyes widened, just barely, but enough for Malik to catch it. Then, just as quickly, Faisal scoffed and waved a dismissive hand. "What? Are you serious? You're letting a maid's interruption mess with your head? Malik, come on. You're being paranoid." Malik's fists clenched. "I heard you." Aisha spoke suddenly, stepping forward with surprising courage. "Last night, you and the investor, you were talking about him, about taking the company from him." Faisal's face turned pale. His gaze snapped toward Aisha like a predator spotting prey. "You're listening to her? A servant? Who do you think she is? She's lying." But the panic in Faisal's voice was impossible to ignore. Malik stepped between them. "Stop yelling at her," he warned. "You're only making yourself look guiltier." Faisal opened his mouth to argue, but seemed to think better of it. He took a deep breath and straightened his jacket. "Fine," he said more calmly. "If you're so sure there's something wrong, have Kareem explain the contract again. Bring in a third-party lawyer if you want. But don't throw away this deal because of some girl's ridiculous story." Malik narrowed his eyes. "I will have the contract reviewed by someone I trust. Outside this building." Faisal smirked, masking his fear with arrogance. "Do whatever you want, but don't expect the investors to wait forever." Without another word, Faisal stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The room fell silent again. Malik turned to Aisha. "You've put yourself in danger by speaking up." Her voice trembled. "I couldn't stay quiet, not after what I heard." Malik nodded, then reached for his phone. This time, he didn't call Kareem. Instead, he dialed an old friend, Amir Jalal, a retired corporate lawyer who owed Malik a favor. "Amir," Malik said when the man answered, "I need you to come to my office. Bring your best team. I need a full audit of a contract. Right now. And don't tell anyone you're coming." After ending the call, Malik turned to Aisha. "You're staying in this office until I say otherwise. Don't answer your phone. Don't open the door for anyone." Her eyes widened. Are you in danger?" Malik gave a humorless smile. "Maybe. But right now, I'm more concerned about you." As he left the office to prepare for the coming storm, Malik felt a strange emotion creeping in, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Gratitude. And underneath it, trust. For a woman he barely knew. Malik paced the marble corridor outside his office. his mind racing faster than it had during any business negotiation. For years, he had believed that power and control were all about having the right information at the right time. Today, he realized how blind he had been to what was happening inside his own walls. His phone buzzed. It was Amir. "We're downstairs," Amir said. "Security gave us trouble, but I told them this is urgent." "Good," Malik replied. "Take the service elevator. I don't want Faisal or anyone from the board seeing you here." Minutes later, Amir and two of his most trusted associates entered Malik's private office. The older lawyer was dressed in a plain gray suit, with reading glasses perched on the tip of his nose. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Where's the contract?" Amir asked. Malik handed it over, and Amir immediately sat at the conference table, spreading out the documents like a surgeon preparing for an emergency operation. His assistants opened their laptops, pulling up financial records and cross-referencing legal databases. Malik turned to Aisha, who remained sitting quietly in the corner. "Stay here," he told her again, giving her a reassuring nod before stepping out to monitor the hallway. Meanwhile, Amir flipped through the contract pages, mumbling to himself. Clause 14b. Interesting. And this cross-ownership clause, hidden in Appendix D. His brow furrowed deeper with every page. Finally, after nearly an hour, Amir stood and approached Malik. "I need to speak with you, alone." Malik closed the office door behind them. "It's worse than you thought," Amir said quietly. "This contract contains a cascade of trigger clauses. The moment you sign, a vote of no confidence will be automatically scheduled within 72 hours. Then a transfer of controlling shares to a holding company, controlled by your brother and two of the investors." Malik's stomach tightened. They really planned this carefully. Amir nodded grimly. "And your own lawyer, Karim. His name shows up on multiple filings with their offshore firms. I'd say he's knee-deep in this betrayal." Malik let out a slow, controlled breath, feeling rage build beneath his composed exterior. Years of loyalty, years of trust, broken. "I want everything documented," Malik said. "Every single illegal clause, every conflict of interest. I want a legal grenade ready to explode in their faces." Amir smiled thinly, already on it. Before Malik could respond, his assistant Layla knocked urgently on the door. "Sir, Karim and your brother are on their way up here, and they don't look happy." Malik's pulse quickened. Time was running out. Turning to Aisha, who still sat nervously by the window, Malik motioned for her to come closer. "You're going to stay in my personal quarters for now," he said. "Layla will take you. And no matter who comes looking for you, you don't open the door. Understand?" Aisha nodded, but her hands trembled as she stood. Just as Layla was about to escort her out through the back exit, The elevator dinged. Faisal and Karim stormed into the corridor. Malik stepped out before they could enter his office. His posture was calm, but his voice carried steel. "This conversation ends here, Faisal," Malik said. "And Karim, you're officially dismissed. Your belongings will be sent to your home, effective immediately." Faisal laughed bitterly. "You think firing your lawyer is going to stop this? The investors want answers, and so do I." Malik stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Faisal could hear. "You wanted war, brother. Now you have it." Without waiting for a reply, Malik turned his back on them both and walked back into his office, shutting the door behind him with deliberate force. Aisha was gone. Safe, at least for now. Malik leaned against the door for a moment, gathering himself. The betrayal was deeper than he imagined, but for the first time today, he felt like he was regaining control. And this time, he wouldn't let his guard down. Malik stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker below as night fell over Dubai. From this height, the city looked peaceful, its gleaming towers and calm streets betraying none of the storm brewing inside his own company. Amir's team was still buried in legal documents, preparing the evidence Malik would need to expose his brother and Karim. But Malik knew time was running out. Faisal wasn't going to sit back and wait for him to act. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Malik hesitated, then answered. A deep, unfamiliar voice spoke. "Mr. Al-Rashid, we thought you'd be smarter than this." Before Malik could reply, the line went dead. He stared at the screen, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a business coup anymore. Someone outside the family was involved, someone dangerous. Moments later, Layla knocked softly and entered the office. "Sir, Aisha is safe in your private residence, just like you asked. Security has been doubled." Malik nodded. "Good. Keep her there. No visitors. No exceptions." Layla lingered at the door, biting her lip nervously. "Sir, there's something else. I checked the building's visitor logs like you asked. 2 of the investors. They met with Karim in the underground parking lot last night. No scheduled meeting. No security clearance." Malik's blood ran cold. Everything Aisha had said was true, and worse. "Tell Amir to add that to the report," Malik ordered. Layla left, and Malik sat down heavily at his desk, staring at the contract spread before him. The ink on the signature line still looked fresh, waiting for his name. But now, that line felt like a loaded gun pointed at his future. Suddenly, his door burst open. Faisal stood there again, this time alone, his face flushed with both anger and desperation. "You think you're untouchable," Faisal snarled. "Do you really think refusing to sign will save you? The investors are pulling their money already. By tomorrow morning, your stock value will tank. The media will eat you alive. You're finished, Malik." Malik stood slowly, walking toward his brother with terrifying calm. And whose fault will that be? The investors? Kareem? Or yours? Faisal's expression faltered for the briefest second before he recovered. You've always been paranoid. That's your problem. You see enemies everywhere. Malik leaned in close, dropping his voice to a near whisper. Because sometimes enemies really are everywhere. Faisal's hands twitched at his sides, as if fighting the urge to lash out physically. Last chance, Faisal, Malik said. Withdraw from this deal. Walk away now, and maybe I'll forget everything I've learned in the last 24 hours. Faisal laughed bitterly. You've already lost. You just don't know it yet. And with that, he stormed off, slamming the door so hard the glass in the windows rattled. Malik exhaled slowly, then turned back to his desk. Minutes later, Amir returned with a thick folder in hand. It's all here, he said. Enough to bury them both in court if you want. Fraud, conspiracy, conflict of interest, you name it. Malik nodded but said nothing. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to think about Aisha again. Without her warning, without her courage, he would have signed that contract. He owed her more than just gratitude. Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. A bold, risky but brilliant move. He turned to Amir. I need to set a trap. One they won't see coming, and I'm going to need Aisha's help. Amir raised an eyebrow, but didn't question him. Whatever you need. Malik picked up his phone and dialed Layla. Bring Aisha here, he said. We're about to rewrite the ending of this story. Aisha sat on the edge of the leather chair in Malik's private office, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a glass of water that remained untouched. The luxurious room felt even larger now, almost intimidating, as Amir and his team moved papers and laptops around, like generals planning a battlefield strategy. Malik stood near the window, arms crossed, eyes distant as he outlined the plan. His voice was calm, but beneath that calm was a layer of controlled fury that everyone in the room could feel. Aisha, he said, turning toward her, I need your help, but I won't force you. This is dangerous. She looked up, surprised. Me? What can I do? Malik gave a slight smile, the first she had seen from him. They don't see you as a threat. They don't watch you. That's your advantage. Amir stepped in. We're going to set a meeting for tomorrow morning. We'll tell Faisal and the investors that Malik has changed his mind and is ready to sign after all. Aisha's eyes widened. But you're not actually going to sign, right? Malik shook his head. Absolutely not. But during that meeting, I need you to record everything. The conversations, the threats, any sign that this deal was meant to destroy me. Once we have them on tape admitting it, we'll have all the evidence we need. Aisha hesitated. What if they catch me? Malik's voice softened. You won't be alone. Amir will have security watching over you. And the moment we get what we need, I'll protect you. no matter what. For a long moment, Aisha stayed silent. She thought about her family back home in Ghana, about how she'd taken this nanny job to send money to her little sister's school. She had never imagined she'd get caught up in something like this. But then she looked at Malik and remembered the look on his face when she warned him. He was a powerful man, yes, but right now she could see the exhaustion and the weight on his shoulders, and she knew what she had to do. "I'll do it," she said quietly. Malik nodded with gratitude. The next morning came faster than anyone expected. The conference room was once again filled with the same faces: Faisal, the investors, Kareem, even though he was technically fired, sat smugly in a corner. Malik entered the room with the same cold authority as always, wearing a charcoal suit and a measured expression that gave nothing away. Aisha moved quietly along the back wall, refilling water glasses like any other staff member. Her phone was tucked carefully beneath her apron, recording everything. Faisal leaned forward. "So, you've come to your senses?" he asked with a mocking smile. Malik didn't reply at first. Instead, he opened a small leather folder and pulled out the contract. His fingers hovered over the pen, creating a long, painful silence that kept everyone on edge. One of the investors, a tall German named Vogel, cleared his throat. "Let's get this done before you change your mind again." That was it. The arrogance. The assumption of victory. Malik gave Amir a subtle nod. Suddenly, the conference room doors burst open. Two uniformed investigators from Dubai's Financial Crimes Unit stepped in, flanked by Amir and two security guards. Faisal jumped from his seat. "What is this?" Malik stood, walking slowly around the table. "This is me taking back control." Amir handed over the thick file of evidence to the lead investigator. "And by the way," Malik added, turning toward Aisha with a brief, proud glance, "this entire meeting was recorded." Panic exploded in the room. Faisal's face turned ghostly white. The investors started shouting over each other. Kareem tried to slip toward the exit, but the guards stopped him. The investigator opened the folder, flipping through pages. "Mr. Faisal al-Rashid, Mr. Kareem, you're both under investigation for corporate fraud and conspiracy." As the officers moved in, Faisal locked eyes with Malik one last time. There was hatred there, but beneath it, a sliver of regret. Malik stood tall, feeling something he hadn't felt in months: peace. As the room cleared and arrests were made, he turned toward Aisha. "You saved my life," he said simply. Aisha smiled, her hands still shaking, but this time with relief. And for the first time, Malik realized the woman he had barely noticed just days ago had become the person he trusted most. The dust had barely settled. The once bustling conference room now felt like an empty battlefield after war. Malik sat alone, staring out over the city from his office window. The golden glow of sunset bathing the skyline in soft light. Faisal and Karim were now in custody. The investors had already begun damage control, issuing public statements that distanced themselves from the scandal. Shares of Malik's company had dipped temporarily, but were quickly stabilizing after news broke that the CEO had uncovered a massive internal conspiracy. But beyond the business headlines, Malik felt the personal weight of what had happened. His own brother, his most trusted lawyer, all willing to destroy him for greed. There was a soft knock at the door. "Aisha," Malik called, already knowing it was her. She stepped in cautiously, her uniform freshly ironed, but there was a new strength in her posture. She was no longer just the nanny. "I heard the news," she said, her voice gentle. "Are you okay?" Malik gave a slow nod. "I will be." He stood and walked toward her. "I owe you more than I can ever repay." She smiled, shaking her head. "You don't owe me anything, sir. I just did what was right." For the first time, Malik laughed, a real, deep, genuine laugh. "You risked your job, your safety, for me," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "That's more loyalty than I've seen from people I've known my whole life." Aisha lowered her gaze, but there was pride in her eyes. "Stay for dinner," Malik said suddenly. "It's time you and I talked. Properly." And as they sat down later that evening, Malik realized something profound. Sometimes the people you least expect are the ones who save you. In the weeks that followed, Malik made sweeping changes to his company. He restructured his board, hired independent legal teams, and implemented strict new policies to prevent internal corruption. His leadership was praised across business media outlets. But there was another, quieter change happening too: his relationship with Aisha. What started as gratitude turned into daily conversations. She no longer stood silent in the background. Malik began asking her opinion on things outside her job, about life, people, even business decisions. Aisha, for her part, found herself growing more comfortable in his presence. One afternoon, after a long board meeting, Malik found her in the estate garden, sitting with his sister's baby on her lap, singing a soft Ghanaian lullaby. He watched from a distance, something warm stirring in his chest. Later that evening, he invited her to sit on the terrace, offering her a cup of coffee. "I want you to stay," he said quietly. "Not just as a nanny, but as part of this house, part of my life." Aisha's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he replied, smiling. And for the first time in a long time, Malik felt hopeful again. Standing on the balcony of his estate, Malik watched the sun rise over Dubai. The soft orange and pink hues painted the sky, signaling the start of a new day, a new chapter. So much had changed. He had nearly lost everything: his company, his reputation, even his sense of trust. But he had gained something more valuable, a reminder that even in a world of billion-dollar deals and ruthless boardrooms, human connection and kindness still mattered. Aisha stood nearby, gently rocking the baby in her arms, smiling at something on her phone. Malik knew his story wasn't just about business survival anymore. It was about redemption, loyalty, and the unexpected people who come into our lives when we need them most. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe again in courage, loyalty, and unexpected heroes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this story with someone who needs inspiration today. Because sometimes the person who saves you is the one you least expect.